Hey y'all, my name is Gracie Gay, and for my informative speech, I'm going to be talking about the Titanic. So, the Titanic was a British ship that was intended to travel from England all the way to New York City. It was made from 1909 to 1912. It was built by the Harland and Wolff Shipbuilding Company. It was operated by the White Star Line, and when it sailed, it carried some of the wealthiest people in the world. But it also carried a few immigrants hoping to gain a new life in the United States. The Titanic was the largest ship that was built in that time period. It was the famous ship, and it was even called unsinkable because it was equipped with watertight compartments and was also equipped with watertight doors. The wealthier passengers stayed in the first class area of the ship. The first class area was equipped with a bunch of amenities, including a gym, a swimming pool, a smoking room, higher end restaurants and cafes, reading and writing rooms, a lounge, and several other amenities. The ship included 39 private suites for some of the first class guests. The suites included a 2-bedroom, and it had 2 wardrobe rooms and also a secluded bathroom from the rest of the ship. The ship also had a second class area. The second class area had room for up to 550 passengers. They were similar to the standard cabins that the first class had offered. And then the ship also had a third class area. The third class area was home to over 1,000 passengers. The passengers slept on bunk beds and often had to share a room with strangers. In the third class area, there were only 2 bathtubs, one for the women and then one for the men. The entire third class had to share this bath area, so it was kind of difficult to use the bathroom, and it was just not a very good environment for the third class passengers. The Titanic set sail on April 10th, 1912. The ship was steadily sailing for around 5 days until on April 15th it tragically sank. The ship sailed 400 miles before hitting an iceberg in the North Atlantic Ocean near Newfoundland, Canada. Before the iceberg hit, a captain of the ship previously heard about warnings about there being drifting ice in the water, but he chose to ignore the warnings. On April 14th at 11:40 p.m., a lookout spotted the iceberg and alerted the bridge immediately. They attempted to steer around the iceberg, but it was already too late, and they just knew they were going to hit the iceberg. The iceberg hit the starboard side of the ship, and the damage created several holes below the waterline. Most of the watertight compartments were destroyed, and this is when the crew realized that the Titanic would definitely sink. The Titanic started sinking with the front of the boat going underwater first. There was a lot of distress on the boat between the passengers and the crew, and it didn't help that the crew members were not trained on what to do in an evacuation or if the boat decided to sink. There was not enough lifeboats to save every member of the ship. There was roughly around 3,339 passengers and crew members on the Titanic, and if the lifeboats were filled to capacity, only 1/3 of the members would fit onto the lifeboats. Because of this, they initiated a policy where children and women filled the lifeboats before the men did. Because of this, a majority of the men that boarded the ship sadly did not survive. Since the crew members did not know the capacity of the lifeboats were only being filled to around 60% capacity. There were also many distress calls being signaled, but by the time anyone got there to help, it would have been too late. By 2:10 a.m., the front of the ship was completely submerged underwater. The back of the ship rose completely out of the water and caused the ship to break into 2 separate pieces. When the front of the ship sank, the back of the ship became angled vertically and was slowly going underwater, along with the front end of the ship. By this point, the passengers that weren't saved by the lifeboats were already in the water and hanging on for dear life with the remaining parts of the ship. When the entire ship was submerged underwater, the passengers had to attempt to survive and keep afloat in the water until more help came. It was 28 degrees in the water that night, and many of the passengers died of drowning or hypothermia. Only 5 of the remaining passengers were rescued by the lifeboats. In the end, 706 people survived the Titanic, and 1,517 people sadly passed away. I have received my sources from the following websites: The first website is Wikipedia. The article does not say who it is published by or when it is published. The second website is from TitanicandCompany.com. It was published in 2022 by Timothy P.D. Turner. The last website is TheUltimateTitanic.com. The website does not say who it was published by or when it was published. Thank you for your time.